We are here at CPAC 2025. I'm Rob Bluey, Executive Editor at the Daily Signal. I'm joined by Michael Chamberlain, Director of Protect the Public's Trust. Michael, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me on, Rob. I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate the work that you do, but for our audience that doesn't necessarily know a whole lot about your organization, tell us what it is your mission is.
Our mission is to focus on ethics and potential misconduct, possible conflicts of interest, and mainly among executive branch officials. We did a lot of work in the Biden administration on some of the appointees that were in there and some of the missteps that they made. We published a report in November that covered covered 3 or 4 dozen of the complaints that we'd filed with inspectors general and the Office of Special Counsel and other investigatory bodies over.
You have a lot of work to do,
yeah.
given the scope of our government. Have you been encouraged by some of the early actions a month into this Trump presidency, particularly when it comes to taking a closer look at how taxpayer money is being spent and what some of those officials are doing?
Well, there's certainly some good signs. And one of the things that we noticed a while ago, as a matter of fact, the first time that we noticed was back in May of 2023, the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund and where the money was going and what they were slating to do with the funds that had been appropriated by the Inflation Reduction Act at the Environmental Protection Agency. And we're really heartened by the work of DOJ and Administrator Zeldin and his team, their teams looking into what's been going on with the money that was coming through that program.
What have they done so far that you find encouraging?
Well, it seems like they found according to reports, about $20 billion that was parked away in a bank account that was scheduled to go out to nonprofits. And then those nonprofits would in turn subgrant to other nonprofits to do sometimes who knows what. Some of the groups that were getting funds, there was a story out yesterday in the Washington Free Beacon about a group affiliated with Stacey Abrams, and they were getting $2 billion. We actually filed a complaint back in June of last year with an official named David Hayes, who was in the White House. According to his resume, he helped create the climate programs in the Inflation Reduction Act. He left the White House, then he went to work for, or to be on the board of a group that ended up getting $5 billion from that same program. So there's a lot to uncover, finding out and the way they structured the program makes it difficult for the agencies to do the oversight, to actually get to the people who are the final recipients of the funds. And I think it's almost as if it was designed that way. So
it certainly seems like it. I mean, when I think about the fact that they've put an expiration date on DOJ of July 4th, 2026, I worry that they're not going to have the time to really dig as deep as they need to in all of these agencies. What are some of the things that Congress or inspectors general or others can do to make sure that this work continues?
Some of what Congress can do is utilize the Congressional Review Act, in which they can go back to certain regulations and rescind them that were passed within a certain period of time before the end of a previous administration. That's some of the things that they do. Congress has their own oversight bodies on the committees that they can help to dig into some of the things that are going on there, and they can accentuate the work that DOJ and others are doing in those areas.
By the way, Paul Larkin at the Heritage Foundation, a legal scholar there, has argued that if the agencies never notified Congress about the regulation, then that 60-day window isn't even applicable. They can go back much further than just the last couple of months. And so I do hope that we've seen some action on that already. Hopefully there will be more. You wrote a piece that we published just this week about Hamas. So your focus is not just here domestically, but also internationally. Can you tell us more about that story?
Well, we started looking into this very early on in when we started, and we sent a FOIA request to the State Department to get documents about resuming funding to the Palestinian territories which had been cut off during the Trump administration, the Trump 45 administration, by something called the Taylor Force Act. So that it required the Palestinians to take certain steps before they were able to resume funding. Well, the Biden administration started sending money back to them, and we were looking into documents that were to try to find out how they were justifying that, because it didn't appear to us as if the conditions that were placed on that resuming funding had been met. So we found several interesting items during that time. We found some memos from the State Department and Treasury Department back in May of 2021, in which they were discussing this funding, and they knew that some of the funds were going to end up in the hands of Hamas and other terrorist organizations, and yet they plowed ahead anyway. The most recent revelations that we found discovered some investigations that the State Department had done over on the United Nations Relief and Works Agencies, UNRWA, and to justify resuming funding to them. And they found that UNRWA hadn't been living up to their obligations either in order to receive funding, and yet they plowed forward with it and started sending them money anyway.
Michael, are these decisions being made by political appointees or career civil servants? I mean, where do we begin in terms of cleaning up the mess that you've just described at State Department or EPA or whatever agency it might exist?
Well, it could be a combination of both, but generally these decisions were made, the impetus for them came from the new administration. So it was the political appointees that they were pushing for this new policy, and then the career officials were providing some of the background information and doing some of the research. But I believe in this case it was the political officials who were making the final decisions to continue to resume sending the money to places that they knew from their own research was probably going to end up in the hands of terrorists.
So how important then is it to make sure that if you're in the position of President Trump and you're the chief executive of this executive branch, the sprawling executive branch, that you make sure that you have personnel who are aligned with your agenda and carry out the wishes of your administration?
Yeah, well, and that's what the political leadership in the agencies are supposed to be. They're supposed to be people of whatever party the president happens to be that are aligned with the president. And really, if you look at the Constitution, Article 2, the president, all of the executive powers are vested in a president of the United States. So really, when you look at it, everyone in the federal government who works for the federal government, their job should be to carry out the agenda of the sitting president, whoever that president is.
Michael, how can our audience find out more about your organization and the work that you do?
So you can go to our website. It's www.protectpublicstrust.org. You can follow us on Twitter or X, at Publics Trust is our handle. You can keep along with that. On our website, we have a page where you can sign up to receive our email updates. We send those out frequently. We try to do a weekly update on all the stories that we've had covered during that week. Often their daily signal that has been covering the things that we've been doing. We really appreciate that, Rob.
Well, absolutely. We certainly appreciate the work you do. You're also organized as a nonprofit, so I'm
Yes.
gathering that people could financially support you as well in terms of making sure that you can continue to do the work that you're doing.
Glad you mentioned that. There's a donate button on the website that they can click through and they can help support our work that way as well.
Well, it's critically important. I mean, the Daily Signal also is a 501c3 nonprofit. I think those of us who are mission-driven organizations, we rely on the support of our audience. And so thank you, Michael, for all the work you do. We appreciate the collaboration and partnership that we have, and look forward to following the work in the future.
All right, thank you very much, Rob. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.